Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing a commentator's request, which is, what if Watergate never happened? So, instead of doing how I normally do it, I'm going to go election by election and explain what would happen. So if Watergate never happened, Nixon would be a more fairly popular president, clearly, which would excel to the Republican Party, in 1970, I think, 6? Yes, 1976. Which the Republican nominee, which would be Ronald Reagan. However, in the Democrat primary, there are really three major candidates: Jimmy Carter, Morris Udall, and Jerry Brown. Carter would still win the nomination. In the Republican primary, Gerald Ford would actually lose to Ronald Reagan this time around, since he doesn't have the incumbency factor running for him. Reagan's running mate would be Jack Kemp. However, Walter Mondale would still be Jimmy Carter's running mate. And Reagan would defeat Jimmy Carter by a landslide still. Not as big as a landslide as he normally would win. He would win 367 electoral votes to Jimmy Carter's 170 electoral votes. But Reagan's first term is essentially his first term in real life. He cuts taxes, he actually withdraws from the Vietnam War. Or he doesn't withdraw, but he finishes withdrawing troops, which is very popular. The economy rises and all that. So there's that. In 1980, in the Democrat primary, Ted Kennedy, Jerry Brown, and Cliff Finch would end up running, which Ted Kennedy would end up being the nominee running against Ronald Reagan. Ted Kennedy's running mate would be James Eastland, a senator, I think, from Ohio or Indiana. It was one of the two. But it would be a very close election. The popular vote victory would be less than 1% for Ronald Reagan, but the Electoral College vote would be 335 to 203. It would be a very close election, popular vote-wise. Though Ronald Reagan would still win re-election. His second term would essentially be the same for his second term in real life. However, in 1984, John Glenn, at the end of Reagan's presidency, the October surprises, the economy does drop a little bit. It was to recession levels, which isn't good for the Republican nominee, which is Vice President Jack Kemp, who would run against Minnesota Governor Harold Stassen and defeat him. And the Democrat primary, Senator John Glenn, who was an astronaut, would be the nominee, defeating Jesse Jackson and Gary Hart in the primary. Jack Kemp's running mate would be Bob Dole, a senator from Kansas, and John Glenn's running mate would be Reuben Askew, the governor from Florida. So the October surprise would give John Glenn a narrow victory. He would win Iowa, which was a Reagan state, I think, as well as Oregon, Washington, and New York. So he would win 277 electoral votes to 261 electoral votes. John Glenn would become the 39th U.S. president. And his first term is essentially pretty good. He gets the economy back up where it was. It didn't drop that much, but it was still a recession. It was still a recession level drop. The unemployment rating does rise a little bit during his term, but not noticeably. Which in the 1988 election, John Glenn is uncontested in the primary, but in the Republican primary, Harold Stassen, governor of Minnesota, Dan Quayle, senator from Indiana, and Donald Rumsfeld, a secretary from Nixon's administration, Harold Stassen's running mate would be Alexander Haig, the secretary of defense from Reagan's administration this timeline. And this time, John Glenn does win a more percent of the popular vote. He does a lot better with voters. He would win 321 electoral votes. He's a fairly popular president, and he would defeat Harold Stassen. However, Stassen does win in his home state of Minnesota, which is a big shock to everyone, I guess you could say, which he shouldn't. In 1992, Bill Clinton is still the nominee, but he runs against Ross Perot, who defeats Dan Quayle and David Duke in the primary. Not too strong of opposition, especially when you're a billionaire. But Bill Clinton does go through Jerry Brown, Paul Tsongas, Bob Kerry, and Tom Harkin to win the nomination. And the running mates, of course, Al Gore will be Bill Clinton's running mate, and James Stockdale will still be Ross Perot's running mate. Bill Clinton doesn't win by as big of a percent as he did in 1992, but he still wins 313 to 225. People don't trust Ross Perot. I guess you could say he turns off a lot of voters. However, he does win Maine, as that was where a majority of Ross Perot's, I guess you could say, popularity came from, was from Maine. He was very popular. He won, I think the most counties he won was from the state of Maine. But Bill Clinton does become the 40th president. And essentially, Bill Clinton's first term is the same as it was in real life, considering he was elected in 1992 in our little timeline. In 1996, however, Pat Buchanan does win the nomination, defeating Alan Keyes and Pete Wilson. Pete Wilson, of course, dropped out because of his voice having throat cancer and all that. But Pat Buchanan does choose a black guy as his running mate, the first black person nominated for the running mate position, Alan Keyes. He nominates him, which is very popular in the Detroit area, in the Rust Belt, especially in both the South and in the Rust Belt. And Republican activist Pat Buchanan defeats Democrat President Bill Clinton 304 to 234 to become the 41st president. In Pat Buchanan's term, the economy does drop a little bit, though. However, he does lower drug prices for private health insurances places, so people can be put on health care more. He does finish the fence, the border fence across the country, as well as increase the job rate for people in the Rust Belt in the South. So there's that, which I guess helps him out because Bill Clinton does end up running again. Bill Bradley is the only real opposition to Bill Clinton as he attempts to pull a Grover Cleveland. Bill Clinton does not choose Al Gore as his running mate again. He actually picks Bill Bradley. But Pat Buchanan still beats him. However, it's a lot more narrow than it was last time, as Pat Buchanan wins 284 to 253 as he loses the Rust Belt to Clinton, but finishes off the South and takes it from him, and wins both New Hampshire and Maine's 2nd District. And the 2004 election is essentially the same, except Florida does go to John Kerry, as that's the trend with Florida. John Kerry defeats John Edwards and Howard Dean, as George Bush defeats Lincoln Chafee and John McCain. The Republican primary very contested, as Bush came in 3rd in New Hampshire, behind Chafee and McCain, but he did win Iowa and Nevada. Or he won Iowa and South Carolina, McCain won Nevada. Running mates are the same, John Edwards and Dick Cheney, but Democrat Senator John Kerry defeats Republican Governor George Bush to become the 42nd President of the United States. So John Kerry does become President. And the 2008 election, the Republicans nominate John McCain, as in our real time. He does not pick John Kerry has to replace his running mate because of the scandal about John Edwards. John Edwards resigns, and John Kerry chooses Hillary Clinton as his running mate, the first female to be nominated for that position, and the first female in this timeline. And John McCain is not under the pressure of picking a woman this time, so he chooses Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore, but he still runs a pretty terrible campaign as he loses to President John Kerry by 306 to 232. Ironic, as that was the 2016 election, just flipped the numbers. John McCain does well in the Southwest and in the Southeast as well, essentially near the South, except in the states of Florida. So there's that. In the 2012 election, in the Democrat primary, there's Obama, Clinton. Biden, those are your two main factors. In the Republican primary, it's Romney, Paul, and Gingrich. But Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, they still go at it in the 2012 election, and their running mates are still Joe Biden and Paul Ryan. Senator, Barack Obama is still the senator of Illinois at this point, and Mitt Romney is the former governor of Massachusetts. It's essentially the same race, except Mitt Romney does win the state of Florida, Colorado, New Mexico, and Nevada, as those are primarily Republican states in this timeline. Obama still becomes the 43rd president of the United States. And his first term is essentially like it was in 2008, where he passes Obamacare, repeals Don't Ask, Don't Tell, all that good stuff. In the 2016 election, in the Republican primary, there was Ted Cruz, John Kasich, Marco Rubio, and Ben Carson. Now Donald Trump, since he will not break with Obama over the Muslim issue, as the Democrats are pushing a more moderate viewpoint, not the far left, because they know that they can't push too far left due to George McGovern, and since there was no Watergate and all that, so they're having to push a more moderate base, since that's how John Kerry won. There's a more respect between the two parties. So Donald Trump does not break with the Democrat Party, and Jeb Bush does not run for president since his brother lost in 2004. That kind of ruins the Bush dynasty, I guess you can say. And Ted Cruz's running mate is Carly Fiorina, like it was in our time. But Barack Obama still defeats Ted Cruz to win re-election, winning 287 to 251. He would flip the states of Virginia and Florida. However, Ted Cruz would flip Maine's 2nd District. We're now in this year, the 2020 election. In the Democrat primary, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. This is 2016 Bernie Sanders, his first time. He's finally riling up the troops. He's more to the right than he is in this timeline, than he is to the left. He's still considered a socialist, but he's not all the way far left. And Elizabeth Warren is more to the center than she is to the left. But by the end of the day, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they both make it to the convention as they deadlock it, a contested convention. They choose Joe Biden over Donald Trump, despite Donald Trump winning more of the vote than Joe Biden. Donald Trump says, you know what, I warned you, I'm going to run as an independent, and he runs as an independent. In the Republican primary, there was John Kasich, Ron Paul. Michael Bloomberg does not split with the Republican Party on this due to, the Republicans being crazy, I guess you could say. I don't know why he broke with the Republican Party, but he stays as a Republican. Well, he could still become an independent and caucus with or still, support Republicans, but you know what I mean. There's also Nikki Haley and Marco Rubio. John Kasich does end up winning the nomination. And for the running mates, Kasich's running mate is Nikki Haley. Biden still chooses Kamala Harris. And Donald Trump would still pick Mike Pence. A bipartisan ticket right there. I think Trump would do that. But due to the vote splitting, as you can see, Donald Trump does have more of a appeal base in the South. That's how that works. But he also takes Maine's 1st district from Biden. He takes a major support away from both candidates, but mostly Biden, as Republican Governor John Kasich defeats both the Democrat Vice President Joe Biden and independent businessman Donald Trump 291 to 82 to 65 to become the 44th president. From here, there's a couple paths. John Kasich will most likely get the nominees in 2024. But I do see there being a small recession in John Kasich's start, but he would most likely fix that before the midterms, I believe. If he sees opposition, it'll most likely be from Michael Bloomberg, or Rand Paul, if there was opposition, but I highly doubt it. 2024, Hillary Clinton would most likely run in 2024. She would skip out on this due to both Joe Biden and Donald Trump running, as she's good friends with both of them. She would most likely run in 2024. Donald Trump would most likely run again in 2024 as a Democrat. He'd probably either beat Hillary Clinton or get screwed out and just switch parties and support John Kasich. That's what I see. But anyway, guys, this is the Chaotic One saying peace. I hope you enjoyed this video. I actually had fun making it. This is the Chaotic One saying peace.